Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Blackluster Soldier deck profile. So this is the ultimate warrior in between light and darkness, bridging the gap in between the Chaos Gateway to summon out the ultimate creature of Chaos, which is the Blackluster Soldier. So I'm really excited to do this deck because this deck is probably one of my favorite decks to actually play around with in the nostalgia category besides Red Eyes Black Dragon and Dark Magician. This deck is really fun to play around with, and I feel like Blackluster Soldier is kind of like the underdog between the Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, and Dark Magician, and so I just really love playing around with Blackluster Soldier. And plus, he becomes the Super Soldier, which is amazing, and even has his own Link monster now, which is super nostalgic, and I am super excited to do this for you guys. So, without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, because we have some awesome rewards, you guys, like getting your name searched for every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, or even getting requested deck profile every single month to our patron, along with test hands. And I am really excited to do this one too, because I'm not playing incantations in this build at all. So, let's go ahead and see what we're playing around with. So, first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Blackluster Soldier Super Soldier. Yes, we did bump it down to 2. You don't really need 3 anymore, because what this card does is you can ritual summon this card with Super Soldier Ritual. And there's also another ritual in the deck called Super Soldier Synthesis that you can also ritual summon this card with. And if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sent it to the graveyard, then you inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of the monster that was destroyed and sent to the graveyard by this card. And if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from your hand deck or graveyard, which we don't actually play any Gaia the Fierce Knight, which is not that big of a deal. And it also has the ability that you can only special summon the Blackluster Soldier Super Soldier once per turn, which is why we only play 2 now, because you can only play 1 of them per turn, and it's easily searchable in this deck. We then play a single copy of Blackluster Soldier. You gotta play the OG Blackluster Soldier. He has no effect, but he's really good in this deck and easy to summon out, which is why I play him as a 1-of in this deck, because he's just so easy to summon with your copy of your Super Soldier Ritual or your Super Soldier Synthesis. And he's kind of like the backup play that if you can't summon out a second copy of Super Soldier, you can summon out the original Blackluster Soldier, and he gains different effects with your copies of the Beginning Night and the Evening Twilight. We then play 2 copies of Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning. Envoy of the Beginning, you just banish a light and dark monster from your graveyard and special summon him, and he can either attack twice or banish a card on the field, which is really cool to be able to just give him those additional abilities to be able to do all sorts of crazy stuff. If you banish something on the field though, he can't attack that turn, which is kind of a downer. But then we play a single copy of the Chaos Creator. The Chaos Creator is one of the new Chaos cards that came out in Toon Chaos, and is overall a really good card in this deck, because you banish 1 light and 1 dark monster from your graveyard, and if you do, if this card is summoned, if you control this card in a special summon from the hand, you can target 3 of your banished monsters with different names, and then special summon 1 of them, and then place the others on the bottom of the deck in any order, which helps you recycle your cards back into the deck, and plus it's a 3k defense monster. It's going to make it really hard for your opponent to get past. We then play 3 copies of Beginning Night, which Beginning Night is a really neat card that basically, if it's banished from the graveyard, then you get to add from your deck to your hand a ritual spell that is a ritual spell. It doesn't have to specifically list Blackluster Soldier or anything, it's just a ritual spell, which is super good. It also, if a Blackluster Soldier monster is ritual summoned using this card, you can give it both of these effects. Once per turn, you can target a card your opponent controls and banish it, and when this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can activate this effect to make it attack a second time in a row, which is super cool to give it that buff. We then play 3 copies of Evening Twilight, which if it is banished, then you get to add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand as well, which is pretty good to be able to just grab those cards out of the deck as quickly as possible to get you additional plays. And then also it gives the buffs to a Blackluster Soldier if it's used as a ritual material, which it has the abilities that you can target a monster on the field and banish it, and then once per turn you can banish 1 random card from your opponent's hand face down until the end of your opponent's next turn, which is pretty good as well, which is why I play both of these as 3-ofs. We then play 2 copies of Super Soldier Soul. This card is a card that we summon out with Isolde a lot in this deck because it's super easy to summon and help you link climb, and has a really cool effect that lets you send a Blackluster Soldier ritual monster from your hand to the graveyard, graveyard, and until the opponent's end phase, this card's attack becomes 3,000, and its name becomes Blackluster Soldier. And you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a Beginning Night or an Evening Twilight Night from your deck to your hand. You can also be used as link material, which is nice, and it's just an overall really good card to play in this deck as a 2-of to summon out with Isolde. We then play a single copy of Photon Thrasher. The reason you play Photon Thrasher at 1 is because it can't be normal summoned or set, which is really good for Chaos Space to be able to grab this card out of your deck to make rank 4 plays, to make Xyz plays, to summon out a copy of your rank 4s or Isolde, and it's a warrior monster. We then play 3 copies of Blue Mountain Butterspy. Blue Mountain Butterspy also cannot be normal summoned or set, and if you normal summon a monster, a warrior monster, then you can special summon this card from your hand, but it can't be used as synchro material, which is not a big deal. We then play 3 copies of Neospace Connector. Neospace Connector, when it is normal summon, you get to special summon 1 Neospatian or 1 elemental or Neos from your hand or deck to your side of the field, which is always going to be our copy of Neospatian Aquadolphin. Aquadolphin lets you discard a card and then look at your opponent's hand, which can be really good to discard a card like a copy of one of your Evening Twilight or Beginning Nights, because there's some cards in the deck that really benefit off of them being in the graveyard, like your Chaos monsters, which is super helpful. Also, by discarding the card, you get to look at your opponent's hand, choose a monster, and if the monster has greater attack than this card, then you destroy that card. Otherwise, if you don't, you take 500 points of damage, which is not that big of a deal. We then play a single copy of Chaos Valkyria. Chaos Valkyria is really good because it lets you banish a light or a dark monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is banished, then you get to send a light or a dark monster from your deck to the graveyard. But for the rest of the turn, you cannot activate cards or effects of that card's effect with the same name as that card, which is not that big of a deal. It's just really good to get out another monster onto your side of the field. And then we play 2 copies of, or a single copy of White Dragon Wyvern Buster and a single copy of Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, which is really good to be able to banish either a light or a dark, and they search one another, and they're overall just really, really good cards to be able to special summon to your side of the field. Use them as link plays, use them as rank 4 plays, it just depends on what you particularly need. Basically, this entire bottom row can be special summoned, which is super nice, and then up here is the normal summons and the ritual searches and the Blackluster Soldier and Chaos stuff. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we are playing a single copy of Reinforcements of the Army. Reinforcements of the Army is really nice to be able to grab the particular warrior monster out of your deck that's level 4 or lower, like your copy of Beginning Night or Evening Twilight. It depends on what you need. 1 copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is really nice to send the exact card that you need. Like if you have a light monster, let's say you have a BLS in your hand that you want to summon an Envoy of the Beginning in your hand, and you have a dark monster in the graveyard, but you don't have a light monster in the graveyard, you can use Foolish Burial to send the light monster to the graveyard, so you have a light and a dark to summon out your Blackluster Soldier. It can also be really helpful if you have a copy of your Beginning Night on your graveyard or an Evening Twilight in the graveyard, and you want to send the opposite one to the graveyard to banish with your Blackluster Soldier to get the exact pieces you need to summon out Super Soldier, the big Mamma Jamma himself. We then play a single copy of Double or Nothing because you play so many level 4s in this deck. It's so easy to go in for a copy of Utopia Double to just take games by storm. We play 2 equip spells in the deck, which is 1 Living Fossil, which is like playing Monster Reborn in this deck, and a single copy of Divine Sword Phoenix Blade, which is just really helpful in this deck because it lets you banish 2 warrior monsters from your graveyard to add it back to your hand. This card is really, really, really good in this deck because it not only recurs itself, but being able to banish the Evening Twilight and the Beginning Night, banishing these cards from your graveyard to activate its effect, also gets you 2 searches of a light and a ritual monster and a ritual spell, which is why we don't play 3 copies of Blackluster Soldier anymore, the Super Soldier, because it's so easy to grab with this card. We then play 3 copies of Chaos Space. Chaos Space is really easy to resolve in this deck because you just send a light or a dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then when you send a light or from your hand to the graveyard, and then you add the opposite type. Like if I send a light from the deck, or a light from my hand to the graveyard, I add a dark monster that cannot be normal summoned or set. Or if I send a dark monster from my hand, I add a light monster that cannot be normal summoned or set from my deck to my hand. That's either a level 4 to a level 8. Anywhere in between, it can be 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 levels, which is really cool. We then play 3 copies of Gateway to Chaos. Gateway to Chaos lets us add a Blackluster Soldier Ritual Monster or a Gaia the Fierce Night Monster from our deck to our hand. And then once per turn, you remove 3 counters from this card to add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. And each time a monster is sent from your hand or your graveyard, you place a spell counter on this card. So if you get 3, you get to add a ritual spell. When you activate this card, you immediately get to add a Blackluster Soldier from your deck to your hand. We then play 3 copies of Super Soldier Synthesis. Super Soldier Synthesis is not quite as searchable as Blackluster Soldier, so I like to play 3 copies of it. It's really easy to resolve this card because you send from your hand to the graveyard, or you send from your hand to the graveyard either a light or a dark monster, and then you send from your deck to the graveyard a light or a dark monster, whichever one you didn't send from your hand. So if I have a light in my hand, I send a dark from the deck. If I have a dark in my hand, I send a light from the deck to special summon a Blackluster Soldier Ritual monster, which is really nice. It helps you get cards out of your deck, and it doesn't have such quite a heavy cost to get out the cards that you want, like your copy of your Blackluster Soldier Ritual monster. We then play a single copy of Super Soldier Ritual. Super Soldier Ritual is really good to help get out your monsters onto your side of the field because it's basically a generic card to summon out a Blackluster Soldier Ritual monster, and then it also has the original effect, or also has a really cool effect that during your main phase, is that the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card and a light and a dark monster from your graveyard to special summon a Blackluster Soldier Ritual monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is really good as a one-of to send from your deck to the graveyard, or to special summon from your hand a copy of a Blackluster Soldier Ritual monster. So that's it for the spells, guys, and that's it for the main deck as well. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing a single copy of the Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. You don't have to play this. I have one, so I was like, man, I really want to play this as a one-of. You don't have to. It's a really expensive card, but if you want to bring cost down on the deck, drop it out. Play something like a copy of Nightmare Cerberus to make it so you can pop a monster. I just really like it because it's really easy to summon in this deck, and when it destroys a monster by battle, it either gains 1500, can make a second attack, or it can banish a card on the field, which is super nice. I love this card as a one-of in the deck, but you don't have to play it. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker just to be able to pop additional cards on the field, Nightmare Unicorn to be able to spin stuff, Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells and traps, and a single copy of Isolde. You could also put a second copy of Isolde if you want into the deck, if you don't want to play the copy of your Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. It depends on what you want to play in this particular deck. It's just overall a really good card to play in the deck. Is a one-of. I don't feel like you need to, because it's very rare that you're going to summon a second one. But overall, it's just a really good card to help you link climb and add a warrior from deck to hand and special summon out that Super Soldier Soul, which is really cool. One copy of Cross Sheep, you can resolve the ritual effect of this card to let you draw 2 and then discard 2, which is really cool to be able to do in this deck. One copy of Link Rebo, because you can put a lot of level 1 monsters on the field in the form of your copy of your Super Soldier Soul. One copy of Relinquished Anima, again, really easy to summon in this deck. And then a copy of Alamirage as well. Alamirage is really good too, because Alamirage, you can normal summon out one of your copies of your, just say, normal summon out a copy of the Beginning Night, and then immediately link into Alamirage to get it off the field into the graveyard so you can banish it for a Chaos play. One copy of Hope Harboring Dragon Titanic Galaxy, say that 3 times fast. It banishes spell cards, or negates spell cards, which is super good. One copy of Utopia Double and Utopia, just for hitting your opponent for 10,000. Really good card. All you have to do is have 2 level 4s on the field, overlay into Utopia Double, detach a material, summon Utopia Double, or detach a material, add double or nothing from deck to hand, overlay on top of it with a copy of Utopia, and then swing for 10,000 by detaching material, negating the attack, dropping double or nothing, and then hitting him for 10,000. Really easy play. One copy of Tornado Dragon, just to be able to pop additional spells and traps. Copy of Abyss Dweller to shut down Graveyard, because sometimes Abyss Dweller just ends the game by itself. And then a copy of number 60, because it can double the attack of a monster, discard, or draw 2, discard 1. And it's just an overall really good card to help you go through the plays in the deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really cool, interesting deck to be able to play Blackluster Soldier. And I love playing around with this deck, like I said at the beginning of the video. It's just a really good, fun deck to play around with. And it's just an overall, like, not super expensive main deck. The extra deck is kind of expensive, but you don't have to play the access code. You could drop it for Boral Sword, and you don't have to play the Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. You could drop it for a second Isolde. It's totally up to you how you play the extra deck. You're usually just going in for Isolde for the extra deck anyways, but sometimes you'll go in for the rank 4s as well, and go in for the Nightmare monsters. But anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.